Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and its Ukrainian proxy forces. Now, as we speak, the Russian Donbas offensive continues. The Ukrainian front lines continue to collapse under the weight of the relentless Russian onslaught. Now, interestingly enough, there is additional military conflict happening in other parts of the world. Military conflict that is directly attached to this ongoing conflict. The game of wars. The game of wars. Now, a key supporter of the Russian Federation, a key instrument in terms of Russian geostrategic strategy, is the nation state of Syria. Syria has had a long relationship with the Russian Federation. The Russian Federation assisted the Syrian military in partially defeating the Islamist forces that were attempting to gain control of that nation state. Now, with Russian attention greatly focused on the ongoing conflict that is taking place in Eastern Europe, the Ukraine, the borderlands, in the last 48 hours, there has been a surprise attack by Islamist forces against the government of Syria. Specifically, these Islamist forces have taken control of Syria's second largest city, Aleppo, and are also making offensive operations, offensive headway towards the key city of Hama, down here just to the south by southwest of Aleppo. Now, as we look at this conflict, this is where reason, basic reason, really comes into play. The area in white is essentially made up of the Islamist forces Tahrir al-Sham. Where are these forces, where are these Islamist forces getting their equipment? Look at the map. This is not complicated to get your head around. To the south, Syrian government forces, areas controlled by the Syrian government. To the northeast, to the north, to the northwest of Syrian-controlled positions, you have one nation state who happens to also belong to, yep, you guessed it, Turkey, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Where is it possible that Tahrir al-Sham is receiving its weaponry? How is it being supplied? They can only be supplied from one area, and they have to be supplied. They're not being supplied by the Syrian government, of course, obviously. No brainer. They don't have access to the sea. The only place that Tahrir al-Sham could be supplied from is from Turkey. Now, we have seen some very interesting footage, documented video footage of the Islamist rebels launching their attack on Aleppo and some of the weapon systems that were being used. The Turks have some very high quality weapon systems, specifically weapon systems that are essentially the same as the HIMARS. They have the same capability to deploy HIMARS, the 227 millimeter guided rocket system that is used by the HIMARS, an equivalent system to the ATACMS. During this attack on Aleppo, we observed strikes taking place against Syrian government forces that appeared to very much look like HIMARS strikes. Large, precision-guided rockets precisely hitting Syrian government force positions, command and control positions, supply depots, barracks, facilities, what have you. Again, Tahrir al-Sham is not able to produce weapons. They do not have factories in this white area controlled by the Islamists. And if they do, they're very rudimentary factories that could not fully sponsor and supply its 15 to 30,000 fighting personnel. So how did this operation take place? How did it come about that these Islamist forces were able to move so quickly, so rapidly, seize control of Syria's second largest city, and then move south towards Hama? There's only one explanation. These forces are being directly supported by both the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the Turkish military. Now, we anticipate that the Syrian army will start to launch counterattacks. We do believe the Russians are continuing to support and will support the current Syrian government and drive these Islamist forces eventually out of Aleppo and rebuff their offensive operations towards Hama. It's going to be a tough fight. An incredibly tough fight. But, again, this operation, I can guarantee you, is directly connected to the ongoing war between Russia and the Ukraine and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. All the connectivity and hallmarks of direct NATO support and direct Turkish support in this ongoing offensive operation is glaringly apparent. Again, where is Tahrir al-Sham receiving support? How is it doing what it's doing? And there's only one answer. Support from NATO and Turkey. That's what's happening. And it's designed to try and draw Russian attention and Russian assets, Russian resources from the ongoing battlefields of Ukraine to divert Russian resources to assist the Syrians. And that's what's happening. Diabolical. Syrian civil war, absolutely brutal. One of the most brutal civil wars in recorded history. Brutal, brutal war. Absolutely brutal. So we're going to continue to watch what is happening in the battlefields of Syria, the continued fighting that is taking place now very close to Aleppo, the counteroffensive by the Syrian army that we will believe will occur Again, fairly surprised operation by these Islamist forces, directly supported by NATO. Again, but NATO is just a defensive organization, correct? Right? I mean, NATO would never operate in the Middle East. The North Atlantic. I mean, there's just no reason why an alliance made up of states designed to protect nation states in the North Atlantic, Western Europe, would have any interest whatsoever in what's happening in, say, Syria, Libya, Serbia, Kosovo, right? Maybe? This is testament. This direct support for Tahrir al-Sham is testament to the collapse of the Ukrainian front lines. They're trying to draw Russian attention away from the Donbas offensive into other areas of the world. But I think they're miscalculating. I think this was a miscalculation on the part of those who are orchestrating these conflicts. Let's have a quick look at what has happened again over the course of the last few days in the Donbas offensive. We're going back all the way to the 19th of November. And here we go, fast forward. And there we go. Hence, what is happening now in Syria. The Kursk incursion failed. The Russians have continued the Donbas offensive. And now, additional games of war. Syria. I imagine that this has been prepared for some time. And there is a possibility this could get a lot more messier than what we're seeing right now. And when I mean a lot more messier, could this be a direct effort to take control of Damascus? Could this operation that's taking place in Syria, with the assistance of NATO, with the assistance of Turkey, be a serious, serious threat to the regime of Assad? This is a significant operation with a lot of backing and a lot of resources that were not present prior to just a month ago. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the days and weeks ahead in the ongoing battles that are taking place around Aleppo and Hama, and is there a possibility additional fronts could be launched against Syrian government forces? Difficult to say. But we're going to continue to watch what is happening on the ground, both in the Ukraine, Syria, the Middle East, and other areas as well. As always, thanks for joining us. Have a good day.